Welcome to NFL World, NFL Starts and Ends. I'm your host, Jacob. And I'm sorry, I still have a little bit of a cold, but we're going to try and get through this. So, the Chiefs are undefeated no more after the loss to the Buffalo Bills, which we all felt like this was going to happen. It wasn't going to exactly be a humiliating loss. It would be more of a slow, painful loss. And the Chiefs fans have pretty much gotten used to that slow and painful kind of way of playing because the last few weeks it's been that way. Like they wanted to almost lose against the Raiders and didn't. They almost lost to the Broncos and didn't. They didn't. It never felt like they had control of the game. Like they were ahead a couple times, but they would only be ahead by like a point. But it always felt like the Bills did in fact dominate when they were on the field. Like you have some mistakes that Josh Allen made, like on the fourth down play, trying to get the ball to Dawson Knox, but Knox is pretty much covered if he just waits. There's a guy on like the over route would have been open for a big gain, and Allen doesn't wait. So there was some definite good from the Bills in the late game. They have to go down the field and score. It's fourth down. They decide to get the offense out on the field to not give Mahomes one more chance. They pick up the first down and actually end up scoring the touchdown, winning the game. Everyone knows, and everyone and their mama knows who is going to have a playoff game. What two teams are going to face each other in the playoffs? Everyone knows. It's the Bills and the Chiefs. They know that. And then probably the Chiefs and the Ravens, either before or after. Everyone knows that. But it makes everything else very interesting. Because as it sits right now, Pittsburgh, who beat Baltimore, is 8-2. The Bills are 9-2, and the Chiefs are 9-1. The Chiefs, I believe, still have to face the Steelers. And the Browns, which the Browns are kind of stingy. They're still going to face the Broncos again, the Chargers again, and the Raiders again. So, is there a possibility that they lose another game at this point? Yes. Especially with how good those teams have been playing. It could definitely happen. The best thing for the Chiefs is they can't falter. Because, as we said, Harrison Butker's out. So there's a lot of things going on. The hope is that they're okay. But it's a process. Again, like we've said countless times before. It's a process and expecting to work in that process. It's kind of how this works. Next up, so the New York Football Giants have decided they are benching Daniel Jones. Why it took so long, I have no idea. It's a little bit of a shocker to me. Because it not exactly that it was a shocker, but who they're putting in is a shocker. They're putting in Tommy DeVito. Which is a shocker because are they tanking or are they trying to win games? I don't know. It becomes a very interesting thought. And the reason I said that it's interesting is because they have Drew Lock on the team. Why they chose not to go to Drew Lock, I don't know. But they didn't go with Drew Lock. They're going to roll with Tommy DeVito. And it's not like Daniel Jones has played bad per se in terms of the overall numbers. But the losses are still there. And not only the losses, but the inability to push the ball down the field. Everything is very controlled. It's kind of like when you go to school and they control the environment. So there's only so much you actually can do compared to there's only so much compared to there's so much you want to do. It's kind of like that. This kind of feels like that. It feels like Brian Daboll said, "Okay, Daniel Jones, you've shown that you can't really play quarterback in the NFL, so let's have a very controlled system where your read is here, or out. Bye. See you later. Throw the ball away." Like, that's pretty much what they did. And when they haven't, and he's tried to press, they haven't played well. And you've seen that. Now, this could also be a benefit for Daniel Jones, him being benched. Maybe it is. But also, he needs to understand, if you want to be a football player, this is not the best team to do that, but at the same time, you're not helping the situation. Next up, I want to get this abundantly clear here. Let's see if I can find it. Okay, yes. So, on Sunday morning, right, I guess I should say early Sunday afternoon, Jay Glazer went on the Fox show and said, he went on Fox NFL Sunday and he said that if the Jaguars lost to the Lions, that hot seat for Trent Baalke and Doug Peterson goes higher than it already has. Now, we have made the claims of before that Doug Peterson, that Trent Baalke hiring was not a good hire. Trent Baalke is not a good GM. We thought that Doug Peterson hire was a good hire, but we didn't know how those two would coexist. The answer is not very well. Figures. Can't coexist with Jim Harbaugh. You're not going to coexist with anybody. It's just kind of how it works. And Doug Peterson was asked on the potential of being fired. He said, quote unquote, "If it happens, it happens." Which is not a good thing to say for a head coach. That kind of tells me I know I'm out at the end of this year. I know that. Because of the teams we've beaten, we beat the Colts and we beat the Patriots in London. We didn't beat anyone that would even remotely say, yeah, okay. Like, if they had played on, they didn't even have to win the game, I thought. They just had to make it competitive. And it was competitive for the first quarter, and then it completely fell apart. They ended up losing the game 52-6. There doesn't seem to be a connection between either Peterson and Trevor Lawrence, who I think was also out yesterday, so you had a backup in there. But there doesn't seem to be a connection between the quarterback and the head coach and the GM. It doesn't seem that there's a connection, which is not good. There needs to be a move. And I hate to say that, but that does need to happen. Next up on the list. So the Chargers and the Bengals played a game last night. And it was interesting because in the first half, it felt like the Chargers were running away with this game. The Chargers were making plays. The offense was on fire. Like nothing that they had, I think, 5 drives or 4 drives in the first half. They scored on all but one. Like that's crazy. Defense was balling. The Chiefs couldn't do anything on offense. They couldn't do anything on defense. And then the game switched. Somewhere in the third quarter, the game switched. The defense for the Bengals started making some plays. The offense ended up scoring. And then they just kept repeating it, snowball. To the point that to the point of the lead being eclipsed for going from, I think it was 27-6 to 27-all. And it was a back and forth slugfest at that point. But the Chargers are built for that. The Chargers, remember, we got Jim Harbaugh on our team. We can run the football. We don't need to throw it. So they didn't. They ran it with J.K. Dobbins. And it worked. And they ended up scoring late in the game. The Bengals had a chance to go and win it. Throw the Hail Mary. Can't complete it. Game over. The Bengals fall to 4-7. It's honestly remarkable. As great as Joe Burrow has played. Because he leads the league, I believe, in touchdown passes. I think he's like 27 touchdown passes this year, which is into 4 interceptions. And then he's had like over 3,000 yards passing. And they don't win. The 4-7. It's like, how does that happen? Like you go on the Twitter machine or the X machine, I guess, and you look and you say, look at Joe Burrow's numbers, touchdowns to interceptions. It's like 4-1, which is insane. You go, to put this in perspective, no one is 4-1. The insane part is if you're 3-1. You're 4-1, that's impressive. They're past that. They're almost at 5-6 or 6-1. It's insane. It's really insane. It's almost actually 7-1. It's really insane. But the thing is, Joe Burrow has to have Joe Burrow magic. The offensive line is not very good. I understand. The starting left tackle wasn't playing. But Joe Burrow ran for his life yesterday. It was making plays to Chase Brown, making plays to Jamar Chase, making plays to T. Higgins, making plays all around. He was making plays. You can't. It's almost like you were watching 2 different teams. When the Bengals play offense and when they play defense, it's 2 different teams. It's not cohesive. It's our offense is a top 5 offense and our defense is a bottom 5 defense. We don't know why. It just is. And it's really hard to win games that way. And that's kind of the situation they've been in. They're not a good team on defense. They ended up playing well. So whatever whatever the defensive coordinator let's come DC Lou. Whatever the defensive coordinator Lou said worked. But not well enough. So there is a question of that. And for the Chargers, props to the Chargers for not charging in this game because they so badly wanted to. It nearly did. But just survived long enough. the next part's a little thing. So we talked about this on the podcast on Friday, which aired on YouTube and on Rumble, as we're still trying to get it on Spotify at the moment. And Aaron Rodgers said he wants to come back. He wants to come back for 2025. And that he expects to come back for 2025. Well, those comments were made before the loss to the Jets. Before the Jets lost to the Colts, who were playing Anthony Richardson, who said, we're not going to play Anthony Richardson the rest of the year. He's the future, but we're not playing him. It's Joe Flacco. It's Joe Flacco. Joe Flacco was actually playing really bad. All right, Richardson, let's go. And they won. The Colts did. This Jets team is not very good. And I question how they perform. Because they came back. Nearly won the game. But nearly's not good enough. And talk about like a team that do just enough to win is the Pittsburgh Steelers. They're not impressive on offense. The Steelers aren't. They're not impressive on offense. They got a great defense. But they're not impressive on offense. But the thing is, they do enough to win. And we saw this yesterday. They played the Ravens, and a couple times they put Justin Fields on the field for a quarterback run. And he made some plays. And it was a good job by the Steelers that they do enough to win. Sometimes that's all you need. So before we get out of here, we have two more things. We have the recap and we have this injury. So let's do the injury first. So Nick Bosa, in a loss to the Seattle Seahawks, suffered an oblique injury, could miss more time. The hope is that he's okay. The 49ers just lost their third divisional game. This one was at home. These things need to be fixed. They've lost 2 games at home in division. That can't happen. But it's just one of those years, man, of you're a good team, but there's injuries, and you can't find your way back. And again, a fourth quarter loss to the divisional opponents, where you're playing really at least decent football, you're at least winning into the fourth quarter, and then you lose somehow. All right, so we got the recaps here. Let's do our recap. Let me grab the thing. Here we go. We already did talk about most of these, so like the Texans and Cowboys don't play until tonight, so on Wednesday we'll have that. Let's start with this. Ravens at Steelers. Steelers winning the game 18-16. Again, it's not a productive offense for the Steelers, but they do enough to win, and that's sometimes all you can do. And divisional games are usually close anyway. They didn't cover. They didn't. Well, they were plus. The Steelers were +3, but they didn't cover technically. But in a way, they did because they weren't even favored to win the game. So good job by the Steelers. For whatever reason, Lamar Jackson has a hard time against the Steelers. Don't know why. They just know how to play them, I guess. Next up, Rams at Patriots. 28-22 was the score. A lot closer than I thought it would be. But there was a late score by the Patriots. The Rams, oddly enough, were in one of the best positions. It's weird. They're 5-5, and seeing what San Francisco did coming off a bye, Seattle, what they just did, it's odd. It's a very odd year for these divisions. Like San Francisco could miss the playoffs by a game, but the rest of their division makes it, or one team only makes it, but it's going to be a fight to the death. It's very interesting. Next up, let's grab the Lions and Jaguars. So Jaguars at Lions. The score, we kind of alluded to it earlier, was 52-6. It was a massacre, is the best way I can put it. It was a massacre. It was close for the first quarter, and then it completely fell apart. And that's kind of the best way I can say it, because it wasn't pretty. Next up, let's do the Seahawks at Niners. So the Seattle Seahawks winning the game 20-17. Both teams, both Niners and Seahawks, 5-5. Seahawks have the edge. The thing with this is they won a division, and it's odd because both teams, when they faced each other, lost their home games. It was weird. But you're 5-5, you got the edge. The Rams have the edge. The 49ers, on the 49ers also don't have the edge on the Cardinals. So there's a lot going on in a very short time. Let's do the Chiefs and Bills to finish up. The Bills win this game 30-21. I feel like the Chiefs are like the best team if they hold you to 17. If they hold you to 17, they're great. But if they don't, nah. They can't win. They just don't score enough. The offense is putrid, and the defense can only hold up so long. Like, you can't do enough. Like, this was without, the Bills didn't have Keon Coleman. They didn't have Dalton Kincaid as weapons. But the Bills had Amari Cooper. They had Shakir. That worked. It was a great game plan by Joe Brady. They ran the ball well. They were a good team offensively. Defensively, they played stout. They got turnovers when they could get them. It was one of those games. So, to finish up, the Chiefs no longer undefeated. The Steelers have a chance to get this number 1 seed with the way they play football. And the Cowboys-Texans that play tonight, it's still, I think, favored by 7.5. Oh, it actually went to 7. Okay. It went to 7. I still think that's going to be a brutal game to watch. With the way Dallas played, Nico Collins is back. With the injuries that Dallas has, it's going to be brutal to watch on Monday Night Football. So, I guess, if you can put this in the comment section, what's the score for this game? You can say Texans blowout, but then make sure you put the score. Or you could be very nice and generous and say, the Cowboys find a way to make it at least close. Something. Just to brighten the season that has been so dark and so turmoil. For NFL World, I'm Jake Pippett. Out.